Well, welcome to the Church Office podcast.
My name's Gavin Smith, and if you're joining us on video, then here's a little wave.
We're excited to have Nigel Ring join us.
I've never actually heard the word wicked and accountant put in the same sentence.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Church Office podcast. My name is Gavin Smith, and we've got a special guest today. Jo Roach from Cambridge is with us. We've met at a UCAN conference, and I thought everyone, our listeners, need to hear Jo. So, Jo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Welcome. Nice to see you.
A bubbly character who loves her job, is passionate about people. I mean, this is everything I've just picked up at the conference. I thought, right, I need to get her on the podcast because she is going to be outstanding. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We were just joking earlier. I was saying it took me ages to track her down because you've kind of changed your hairstyle, haven't you, in the last year? And on the UCAN, you can put a picture up of yourself on the network. And I thought, well, I know the face, but the hair's really long. And so, you know, to see you on camera today, I'm like, okay, this is definitely the right person. But yeah, quite a change.
Yeah, that was. I had the post-lockdown haircut. Mine was long before lockdown, and then had it cut afterwards. So, but I quite like that old picture, so I haven't changed it. But it does confuse people at work as well.
So, Jo, tell us a bit about your church and your role. What are you up to?
I'm at St Andrew's, Histon, and I'm the church administrator or church office manager, I think technically. We have two churches, St Andrew's Histon and St Andrew's Impington, that we also look after, and also a big centre. So we have lots of bookings for halls in the centre and rooms, but also have a cafe that runs in the centre that is managed by the church. So yeah. Brilliant.
And how long have you been in post? How long have you been there?
Oh, in my current post, you're making me think now.
Do the maths.
Yeah, quick maths. 6 years, I think, since we opened the centre, but in the current post, 18 months less than that, so 4.5.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel long enough, something like that. Yeah.
And you're probably a typical church administrator because our roles seem to grow and develop over time. Tell us, how did you get involved in this? Because you obviously, you came from a teaching background, didn't you?
I did, that's right. I'd had children, I wasn't teaching, I was doing other things myself in the community. And I was asked to be part of the cafe committee, setting up the new cafe in the new centre because we'd just been developed. And I said to a friend, I said, I want to be involved in more of it than just the cafe. She said, that's okay, you will be. And then after I'd been involved in that, somebody came up to me, two different people, they were advertising for somebody to manage voluntarily the centre. Yeah. And I kept ignoring this message. I've got too much else going on and 4 young children. And two people the same day, within about half an hour of each other, said to me, that's you. Yeah. Yeah. And they really felt a call on me. But two both independently said it within half an hour. Yeah.
It just confirmed it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did that step at that point, then to being the manager at the centre. At that point, the church office was its own busy entity, and took that on. But then later on, the office manager was stepping down, and I said, we need to merge these two roles. There's too much overlap and too much not negotiating, but too much reference between us. Yeah, yeah. So I said, okay, that's what we need to do. And somebody else had the same thought at the same time, funnily enough. And so, yeah, I became the overall manager of the two churches and the centre.
Oh, brilliant. It's brilliant. I mean, you've been there 6 years and I'm sure making a huge difference. And cafes seem to be, you know, just kind of really busy at the minute. Lots of churches are either starting one or regenerating them, you know, getting them going. They're a real place where you can engage with community and I don't know what's your experience been coming back from COVID with the cafe. Is that people coming in, chatting, and getting
lots of people coming in, and it's developing. What is really interesting is we've got a lot of cafes have opened up in the community since we opened ours. We're only a small village. Yeah, and we've really become a cafe central. So people come out of Cambridge to the different cafes. Okay. People wondered whether it was too much competition, but we're a very different entity to the other cafes. Yeah. We're very much a pastoral as well, and offer low prices. A lot of older people come in for regular meal deals and things like that. So I think, and we have a lot of people that come in every day. Certain people are very regular. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's a great way to engage. And I went and did a podcast with Paul Barnell in a Baptist church in Cardiff, and they've got a fantastic cafe, and they had a huge legacy left to the church, and they've really ploughed it into kind of trying to be a presence in the community, and they've put this cafe together, and it's fantastic. So I love that. So what does it look like on a day-to-day basis for you? How many sort of days a week are you working, and what kind of different things are you juggling and doing?
I officially work Monday to Friday.
Okay.
Which is hard because I get worship at the church that I work at.
Yeah.
So I am often involved in conversations on a weekend, like a lot of us church administrators are, but officially I'm not working.
Yeah.
I have joked about making a badge that says, I'm here to worship, not work. Just to remind people. I haven't done that yet.
There might be a market for that, actually, to sell.
Absolutely. I am getting firmer at telling people, though.
Yeah.
So I picked up on the UCAN forum, wonderful site, one time to actually sort of not apologize when I say, oh, I'm sorry, I won't remember that. Yeah. So I also say, please email me at work so that I remember that. I'm not going to apologize for not remembering or whatever.
Yeah.
But actually email me on Monday so I can deal with it in my work head, not in my worship head.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, there is always those challenges, isn't there, when you work at a church where you're worshiping and you love it, and people remember in that moment, oh, I need to ask Gavin this, and it's Sunday, and it does happen, doesn't it? And we do have to live with those kind of tensions, but we want to have those kind of clean boundaries as best we can as well.
And it's also, I know sometimes I catch them when I need to, because it's easier to have a conversation in person. I know a lot of them are doing their roles as a volunteer. Yeah. So it's trying to get the balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
No, it absolutely is. Yeah, it absolutely is. So you're fully back, and church kind of ministries are all back to operating where they were before?
Yeah, we're fully back. I would say we're not operating quite as we were before, because I think, like a lot of people, we've trimmed some branches of the vine and starting new ones. So it's not fully operational in the same way, maybe, but things are back to what we expect now and expanding from this. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've trimmed back on, kind of ministry wise? Is that mainly to do with volunteers in different ministries or projects?
We've lost lots of volunteers and things, but some things have changed. We've reduced, the services were reduced, and we haven't gone fully back up.
Okay.
For different reasons. We haven't gone back to pew sheets.
Okay. Yeah.
We've done a lot more by email and things, but obviously not everyone has email, so it's trying to get the balance. Yeah. Which is obviously always a difficult thing. But then other new ministries started. We were sending letters to people during lockdowns, particularly those that were isolated and couldn't do emails and things, and those have continued.
I love that.
It's really interesting, the things that have happened and things that haven't happened. Yeah.
So who takes the initiative in sort of writing to people, and is that?
They get sent the sermon each week.
Oh, right. Okay.
Now we add a bit. The office added a bit at the beginning or the end. Initially it was the vicar during the first bit of the lockdown, but obviously there was so much pressure on him and others. So we write a bit at the beginning, including any notices that might be relevant to them. But also then the sermon and bits. So yeah.
That is sweet, isn't it? A very personalised thing coming through the door like that. That must be lovely to receive. Yeah.
And it's reconnected a few people that were not connecting otherwise because they weren't coming to church because they were no longer able to for different reasons. So, and we still live stream. Obviously, that's we never live streamed before, and we are continuing to live stream. So, yeah.
I think it's great. Yeah, lots of churches have kind of gone back and forth, haven't they, on whether they should or shouldn't. And lots of conversations I'm having with churches that they are continuing it purely because they are reaching those who are most vulnerable or are not able to still come. And I don't know what it's like with you, but we've got a few spikes of COVID and various things. It seems to be around a little bit more. So it's nice to be able to have that available for people, to serve people in the week. Tell me some of the new ministries you've got going, because that's exciting.
Ooh,
what new things are you doing?
I think now.
Are you guys doing anything with Ukrainians? That's our news.
Oh yeah, so that's a new thing. Yeah, no, good one. I mean, during COVID, I was involved very much in the community and coordinating helpers and support community structures. Those have in theory sorted out are now their own. Each high street had coordinated and things. Each street. But yeah, with Ukrainians, we've now got a team up and running. supporting the hosts and supporting the Ukrainians coming in. We haven't had masses of Ukrainians yet into the village, but they are gradually increasing. But obviously a lot of people that want to help. So we've hosted one event recently in the garden, actually, in our garden at home, just for the hosts and the families, just to get to know each other and to make a connection, because they're not finding it easy to just start talking over nothing. So a cake and tea.
Yeah, it's so true.
And other things that are happening in the
for churches, it's lovely, isn't it? Like our local council has been trying to coordinate stuff, but because they've not done a particularly good job with other refugee groups that have come into the UK, they're like, oh, you know, we're not sure whether we can get involved in this, and we're not sure what we can do. And so the church has just jumped in, and we've done a similar thing to you, just hosted a kind of cafe morning, if you like, where host families can meet other host families and you know, engage on those levels. It was lovely to see Ukrainians talking in their own native language together. For some, that's been first time in months, you know. And so there's some lovely little things like that are coming up with kids who are just able to kind of enjoy themselves, you know, where they haven't had that for months. So the church has got loads and loads of really great resources and great people, isn't it, to be able to coordinate something like this. So
yeah, and we're working with others in the community. Obviously, it hasn't become just a church thing, but we're two of us from the church particularly involved in it. And that's and we have done things in the cafe and in other cafes in the village, but also in the garden. So yeah.
Now, as we're talking, one of the things that keeps coming up is community. You're very passionate about this, and tell us a bit about how you've been able to develop links from the church into the community. I mean, I know you're on the high street, so people can walk past, walk in. But it seems to be more than just that, rather than just your presence. What kind of things are you doing?
So our church is not on the high street; it's quite tucked away.
Oh, right.
Of the two, so the building the centre is not next door.
Okay.
The centre is right on the high street, very visible.
Yeah.
It used to have playgroups running in. It doesn't now, but we've got much more under fives work, but linked to the church.
Okay.
More recently. But it's a space that's open for people, and with the cafe very visible on the centre, it helps people. But what we've done prior to COVID and plan to keep doing is reaching out to the community for some of our services.
Yeah.
So we started, not me, but as a team, Meet the Nativity. But Meet the Nativity was nativity on the high street.
Yeah.
People aren't going into church necessarily for nativity, but we're going out to them.
Okay.
Characters and things. So doing things in the community for the community. Is a big passion, I think.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So have you got a summer program or summer events happening into the community this year?
We're lucky we have a children's minister and a youth minister, and so they run their own things. The children's minister often has activities going throughout the summer. I don't know yet. I should know, and I don't know the full plan. So that depends on his free time and things, and they're much more sporadic. We're not, because we're a small village, we're not in the same thing as a big city church.
Yeah. So you're getting on. Oh, wow, that's amazing. You've got a children's and a youth worker as well. That's unique, isn't it, for lots of churches? So I'm
being very silly. We have got a holiday club. I had forgotten that for 1 week. It's 3 days, but I'm not involved this year. I'm no longer involved in it because I'm busy in the office, so I don't think of it in the same way. Sorry, my fault. It is happening.
No, it's good, isn't it? It's good. All these things are great. Now, I've joked on the podcast before that I've always wanted to find somebody who deals with sort of graveyards and manages, you know, those kind of things inside, because, you know, we're, you know, fairly modern church. You know, we don't have to do any of that, so I don't have to deal with any paperwork, or, you know, we get the odd funeral and wedding and stuff like that, but this is something that's a big part of your job, I guess, or at least your team.
We have two churchyards, one at each church.
Yeah.
One is very compact, or one is quite big but is very full because it's the prominent church. One has got quite a lot of space still in it, but there's quite a lot of difficulty now fitting where to put graves into the Histon church, and people who have reserved plots, so it's actually quite difficult. I think the biggest issue we have is what is allowed or not allowed in a churchyard. Pots of flowers are not allowed in a churchyard, but people want to put pots of flowers in a churchyard. Obviously keeping it tidy for everybody is important. And it's been a big bone of contention with the no mow may. And
of course,
we've let it go wild and it's not looked after. It is looked after, but we're trying to be eco-friendly too, so that's an interesting challenge.
And so people, so this is something you have to deal with families in the community who've got what, kind of legacy plots or family plots, and
some of them have, yeah. Some of them go back years, some of them are new to the village, but there are very strict rules as to whether you can be buried there or not, as to what your connection is. A bit like weddings for Church of England, it's very strict on if you fit the right rules and things. So yeah.
So there's a big rule book that helps in this kind of stuff, is there? Okay, because I think I wouldn't be doing my job very well if I had to manage something like that. I was thinking, be going around in circles and spinning another plate. But you seem to take it in your stride. We
have the added trouble though that Histon and Impington are two villages that have merged into one, and the civic boundaries are different from the ecclesiastical boundaries. So people think they live in one, and they don't. They live in the other, as far as I'm concerned. So it all gets very fun.
And so, tell me about so you're doing all the kind of funeral side of things. Tell me about weddings then, because is that a busy part of the role for Church of England Church?
We don't have masses at the moment. I think a lot of people have chosen these days not to have church weddings. Okay. They get married at their venues, not at the church, which is sad.
Yeah.
We've got some coming up this year. We have got a few, but we do a big marriage preparation day for the whole deanery. So that is a lot of time for the office here. But it's very exciting and very well received by the couples, who I think are a bit daunted as to what they're expected to be doing. But it's a great event for them, and we've had a lot of very positive feedback from it. So,
that's good. Tell me a bit about it. So, what does that look like in terms of? Is it a multiple week course, or is it a single day event?
Single day. In February normally, before all the wedding season starts. I think previously they have, when there've been a lot of weddings, they've run more than one a year, but currently we only do one a year. And a big nice meal in the lunchtime that is cooked for them, sort of thing, as a proper nice dinner. But open discussion times, video times, thinking about different areas of your marriage, be that health, be that finances, be that how you sort out arguments, be that and funny videos and clips, and
that's brilliant.
Discussion time for them. It's lovely. It's really good.
And so, as your leadership team at Vickers just put that together as a package, or is that a kind of national thing that people are doing? Or
it's not one of there are national ones obviously out there. This is our own package that we've done.
I love that.
And it's been developed over years. Yeah.
Tailor-made for your village and people that are in your parish, that's lovely. I love that, because it's one of those areas, isn't it, that you don't we tend to organize weddings with people, but we don't tend to help with any pre-marital stuff, which is almost the vital preparation, isn't it, for someone. You can really set someone up for success, can't you, in thinking, how do you deal with conflict, how do you work through these things when there's a dispute, how do you bring finances together and make it all work? They're challenges, aren't they, that people genuinely do face. So,
and I think one couple did decide, unfortunately, at the end of it, not recently, not in my time, that actually it wasn't right for them, but actually how much better to find that out now than to find that out after the wedding. So yeah,
absolutely right. I love that. That sounds great. Yes, it's great to be involved in these things. I mean, do you like where kind of ministry and administration like sort of overlap and meet together? I'm not an upfront person. I'm not a podcast person or a sermon person. There's a reason I work in the office. I like the admin side, but there's so much pastoral as well. And the charm of our job is there's never a normal day. It's always different. We always talk about, it'd be nice to have a normal week, but I'm not entirely sure what that means, really.
No, exactly.
We stop and start, things come in, and you deal with it, don't you? And tell me, you've got great people skills. I mean, you love people, you're bubbly, you attract people to you, and conversations, and obviously there's a real care about you. You cared for me during the UCAN conference, lovely, and just came and chatted to me, and you're brilliant at that. How could you encourage listeners to be people focused in their work? Have you got anything that you could, top tips from Jo here?
I would say listen, and make sure you are listening, but also remember those things. Often sort of mentioning that back to somebody, it means a lot to them, because it shows you've paid attention, doesn't it? I think that's a big thing. Not judging as well, obviously, is very important. It's just sort of listening and taking on. Yeah, that's just me, I think. It's just the way I've been brought up.
Yeah.
And my personality, maybe.
Yeah, no, and gifting, definitely. Yeah,
Oh, thank
definitely.
you.
I think that is definitely present there. So, Jo, tell me, your dad was a minister, so you've kind of been able to get behind the scenes and see what serves ministers and vicars. Has that helped you to do your job better?
Yeah, I think so, because it's given me a greater understanding of the pressures on a minister or vicar, in this case now, and also of their whole family. They obviously, they might have one day off a week, but only one day. And actually, even then, they're on call if there was a real emergency and the likes of things that happen. So it gives you, as having lived in that household and knowing how important it is to protect their time, but also the juggling of social life and work life. You want to have friends in the community, but it's where you work and you don't want those friends to be work. So it's hard.
Yeah, it really is difficult, isn't it? The overlap. I think one of the best bits of advice my sort of senior pastor said to me once is, go and find some friends who are unbelievers, who are totally unimpressed that you work at the church. They don't want to talk about church life. In fact, it's the last thing they want to talk about. And go and enjoy, some time and friendship together. And it's good advice, isn't it? I think.
And I think that's great for us as church administrators, but that's hard for a vicar.
Yeah.
Who can't do that. So we have an overlap, but we can separate a bit more maybe, but it's really hard.
Definitely. And I think your point about them being on call and always on crisis, if something does happen, they do get that call. And it's healthy, isn't it, for us as church administrators to remember our vicars and our leaders in that way, because they do carry a burden that sometimes isn't just, I've got to get these tasks done, but it's a people burden, isn't it? And how are they doing? And the time to pray, time to be able to have it. It can look like sometimes they're not doing anything, but actually they are, isn't it? And that perspective is so important for us, as we need information from them, as we need to work together. Patience is key in this role, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. And there is so much that vicars do, so much that we do in the office. People just don't understand actually the number of calls we're fielding or the number of emails, do they? So it's, I'm sure they think I sit and twiddle my thumbs all day and clock off at 3 when I'm supposed to. No.
So you've been doing this for 6 years, and you clearly love it. You're passionate about it. Are you going to stick around for a long time in this role? Is that something that you think? Yeah, I love it.
I feel a strong calling.
Yeah.
And I love it, and I love the variety. But I love the admin. I love the pastoral. I love lots of it. There are times that I get frustrated by it, like I'm sure a lot of people, but that's part of the job, isn't it? But you wouldn't be in this job if you wanted it for the money, because it's not the money, so you've got to have a passion for it, haven't you? So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've said to my guys, you're gonna have to kick me out if you want to get rid of me, because I'm here. I love it. It's just it's life for me, to be able to serve our church, and to make a difference behind the scenes, to see things function and happen. It's lovely. I hear different ministers talking about just different fruit that's had, or different conversations that they had, and you realize that you kind of follow that thread back, and it's like, oh, they first came on the church barbecue when we were flat out for 12 hours trying to make everything happen and make sure it all came off, and you kind of follow that strand and go, that was worthwhile, because so and so has come and their families come and someone's got saved, and suddenly you go, this is wonderful. Like these little bits of kind of fruit are so encouraging. Do you guys as a team feedback and have that kind of opportunity to talk about fruit, talk about things that are going well, review things that you're involved in? What do you guys like on that?
We have a staff meeting every week where we pray and talk about our own lives as well as the work lives, so which is wonderful. I think we're not always good at sort of evaluating against criteria and vision and what have you, and that's something I learned on the ILM course that I was doing for managing church well, that actually I want to bring that in more. With COVID then striking and mental capacity for change, etc., it hasn't happened in quite the same way, but we do a lot of that, but I'd like to do more of it.
Yeah, I think it's good, isn't it? Yeah, how we can communicate stories, even we enjoy them, but how does the church find out about them as well? It's great. So tell me about this ILM course. What is this? Fill us in, because listeners might not know about it. I know a little bit through UCAN, but give us a little promo on it.
Managing church well.
Yeah.
I was encouraged to attend, or I was told about it at New Wine when we were having a church administrators forum time, and thought that sounds interesting. It's learning how to manage a team, how to manage the church, and putting up life skills. It's run by somebody who trains people internationally, actually managing levels, but not out of church. But she then wanted to do more for her church and for church administrators.
Yeah.
It was it leads to letters after your name, I think, if you want to put them there. I don't. But it was really interesting to talk to other people in the same position, but experiences and things, and think of how we manage, how we deal with people. So yeah, it empowered me. It made me it reaffirmed some of the things I knew already. It taught me some new things and skills, how to handle things better, and gave me confidence in myself and what I'm doing, I suppose, a lot as well. The essays were scary for me.
Okay.
I might have the gift of the gab, but I'm not very good at maths is my subject at degree level.
Okay.
So I wasn't a writer for essays. So academic essays were quite scary. But it was a really good course and thoroughly recommend it. And some of the changes I now want to make sort of come from that. So, or ideas as to things we could do to help. Yeah,
so important, isn't it? Because we get kind of thrusted into these roles, don't we? Everyone's got a different story of how they start into church administration. And then you end up feeling so busy that you don't do any sort of professional development in that sense, do you? And you know, I love going to visit other churches because you just learn so much about the way they run, the way they do things. But to do some sort of, you know, professional qualification, it just gives you such grounding, doesn't it? And to be able to do that. So I've heard loads of really positive things about the course. And Rachel Slough's the tutor, isn't she?
That's right. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think it's lovely to talk to you and lovely to get to know you and find out a bit more about you and your role there. Thanks for coming on the podcast today. I know this is not your kind of, you know, you said yourself, I'm not sure I'm a podcaster, but you are. Here you are. You're doing it and doing it so well.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Doing great. And so thank you for joining us. If you've listening into the podcast, then thanks for taking the time. And it's lovely to talk to other church administrators and hear their story. And have a good rest of the week.
I'll try. And you.
Thank you.